welcome to Learning with Lulu. In this video, we are going to be doing a summary of Chapter 2 in Nathaniel Hawthorne's The Scarlet Letter. In this chapter, we are introduced to our main character, Hester Prynne, as well as her daughter, named Pearl. And we do also get introduced to more of this other side characters still important to this story, such as magistrates and also her husband. We get reference to Hester's past, and not just past involving the sin that the book is obviously centered on, but her past just as a young girl and a young woman. And I think one of the beautiful things about that aspect is it shows that the author of this book sees how people are more than just this one thing they did. Yeah, I definitely get the sense from this chapter that the author is not trying to criticize or say that Hester is a immoral character. I think if anything, he's doing an excellent job of writing a story that shows the ridiculousness sometimes of religious law and pride. Pride, that's more it. Let's just get into it. So, last chapter, we saw the prison door, and there were some symbols with the rose bush, and the door was made of oak, and it's this Puritan society who has these edifices for crime and punishment. And we have this crowd watching to see who comes out of this door that looks like it should be housing some dangerous criminal. And instead, we have Hester Prynne come out. And it's this young woman holding an infant. Immediately, our minds can perhaps go to all the various images of the mother and child, that, a holy symbol of Mary and the Christ child. In Christianity, let me also say, the world over, in many myths, in many cultures outside of those that originated, Christianity originated from, the mother child, that's holy in a lot of myths. And so we have this Hester Prynne coming out of the prison door with her child. It describes Hester as beautiful, but almost in a very regal way. I believe it says that she is tall. And yeah, so we have this obviously, okay, maybe not obviously, but we have this apparently non-dangerous criminal exit this prison. She holds her baby closer to her chest, and I don't think it's entirely clear whether it's to hide the A, which is ironic because using one evidence of her adultery to hide the other doesn't really make sense, so she gives up on that. But I don't know if she was using it to hide. I think the book suggests that's what she was doing, but I can also see a mother going out to this crowd of people who are very unwelcoming, clutching a baby closer to her own, like in a naturally protected manner. And she makes her way up to this scaffold, which it describes to be at about a man's shoulder's height, to stand there and be publicly shamed for her sin. Her sin is adultery. She's married, her husband has been gone, has been missing, and she became pregnant and had a child. And so obviously it was not her husband's child, so she had sex outside of her marriage. As part of her punishment, made her stitch an A onto her bodice. We get some very hard, the book describes them as hard-looking women in the crowd. We are told some of their conversation, and they are a bit critical that all she had to do was wear this letter A to symbolize adult, to tell everyone that she committed adultery, which is having intimacy outside of your marriage. One of the women talks about how she should have had an A branded on her forehead. Another woman in the group, which beauty's in the eye of the beholder. In the book, it says the ugliest woman of the group even goes so far as to say that Hester should be killed for her sin, or that she wouldn't mind if she was killed for her sin. And it just goes to show how Hester is now becoming the scapegoat for everyone's shame over perhaps their own desires, their own fears, all of this. When they have someone that they can attach and blame and ridicule, it makes them feel like they are on the moral high ground, and this pride, it's this religious pride that I talked about. So anyway, her sentence, they didn't brand her, they didn't kill her, they had her stitch an A that she wore that was then like pinned onto her dress. And I love that Hester, it says that she stitched it in gold. She made this letter A beautiful. And there's also some ridicule about that. I feel like I've already said irony a lot in this video, but it is ironic that this woman is holding her child, which by the way, she named Pearl. Think about that. A pearl is a difficult thing that is then formed into this beautiful, luminous, precious little gem. And that's her daughter. And her daughter is obviously the product of having had sex outside of her marriage. And there she's holding this beautiful child that she also has to come to accept. We're gonna get a moment where she's kind of like, it's hard for her to understand that this is her reality, her standing on a pillory, holding a child, being shamed for having had adultery or committed adultery. But the townspeople are so concerned about the consequence of her actions being that she wears this letter A, and it's like this man-made consequence. When if you just looked at it, you looked at mother, child, nature seems to be fruitful in this. It's a beautiful scene. And yet, oh goodness, we could go into this whole like patriarchy thing, and I want to say I am not anti either gender. I think women can have internalized patriarchy, which is definitely evidenced in these women outside and making all of these disparaging comments about Hester. And a lot of terrible things have happened because of patriarchal structures. Also, I am not going to pretend that I think going to the other extreme is good either. I think there should be a balance between both masculine and femininity and the way the world systems work. Anyway, that's another video. So anyway, she's got this beautiful child, and yet they are so focused on this scarlet letter, which Hester has made very ornate and very beautiful. And so of course the women that are criticizing her are critical of that. So Hester is being shamed publicly. Children and adults alike are heckling her, and she's standing there kind of trying to grasp this as her reality. Her mind keeps flashing back to scenes from her life. Essentially her life is, flashing before her eyes. She sees her parents back in England. That's where we, learn she's from. The home that she grew up in, it describes that there was a kind of tattered coat of arms above the door, referencing some like old ancient connection to nobility or aristocracy or something like that. She talks about, you know, times looking in a dusky mirror and seeing herself and seeing her own beauty. And then it says that she sees what she describes as like a misshapen, scholarly man who we can take in that moment when she first starts describing him, and then it also confirms who the scholar is, her husband. It says that one shoulder is lower than the other. He's much older than herself, and he is the one who left Europe for New England, and that's how she ended up here in Boston. You know, after those scenes from her past kind of wash over her, she's then brought starkly back to the present, and she clutches her baby, her Pearl, close to her. The baby cries out almost like from being held too tightly. She's essentially just caught in this moment of disbelief at her current situation. I want to point out, you know, a little bit ago I kind of talked about how she's the scapegoat and how unfair the whole situation is, and I just want to point out that it takes two to make a baby. She did not make the baby on her own. You know, it was an immaculate conception. And as we go throughout this book, I want you to just think about how almost ridiculous the townspeople are. They are so set on shaming her, so much so that one says, you know, she should be killed for her sin. Another wanting to brand an eye, with a hot iron, an A on her forehead. You know, they're wanting to do this to her. They don't know who the father is. And when we find out, we are going to find out who the father is. And it just shows the hypocrisy. You know, if we took religion completely out of this equation and just looked at it as a woman who was taken from her family, taken from her homeland, the man she was married to has been gone, been missing. You could probably presume he was dead. And she found intimacy, she found closeness with another, and the product of that was a beautiful human child, continuation of life. You know, it's the rose blossom, you know, beauty from hardship. And I mean, the rose bush just even as a symbol of new life, you know, going through the thorns, labor, and then the new blossom of life, the sweet breath of air of a newborn baby. You know, you could, let's say that the rose bush is a symbol of that. It's just, this book is very unfair in its treatment of sin in women when it comes to Hester's case. So there's a lot to talk about with this book. If you want analysis videos for the Scarlet Letter, please let me know and just drop that in the comments down below. If you want to just chat about this second chapter, leave that in the comments down below. And yeah, let me know your thoughts. What do you think the rosebush symbolizes? What do you think? Do you think Hester is in the wrong? What do you think about the whole situation? So that being said, like the video, subscribe to the channel, share with others that you know may benefit, and keep coming back for more. Thanks for watching. Bye.